Hello, 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 reinventors. It has been a while. This is your host, Sahar and this is the Reinvent Yourself to Greatness with Sahar podcast. Today, we have a treat for you. We have a woman that basically reinvented her life, and I'm going to let her tell you her story by herself because I think it's better heard that way. I'm very excited to have Erica Leary today on our podcast. She is our first podcast for 2021, and we are really excited to have her today because of all the knowledge and the wisdom that she's going to share with us, with our tribe of reinventors today. Erica, nice seeing you, and it's really great to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. I appreciate the invite. And hopefully we'll have a lot of good stuff for your listeners.
Awesome. So, Erica, usually I ask you to say, before we go through the podcast, I ask you to share your contacts with our tribe. How can they reach you? What's your email? What's your website? And just to let you know, guys, Erica is an awesome marketing strategist and a business consultant. So she can help you, either you are starting, specifically if you're starting, or you are scaling your business. So Erica, can you please share with us your contact information?
Sure. It's Erica Leary, ATL is my personal Facebook page. And then ericaleary.com is my website.
Awesome.
I also have a business page and Instagram are The Real Erica Leary. You can just Google Erica Leary, look for my face.
Awesome. Erica, I can you explain a little bit, what is a marketing strategist? What does it mean? And what's a business consultant? And what's the difference between both?
Okay, so all right, so marketing strategist is, I combine the two of them basically because some people will just hit the marketing side or one piece of the marketing side, and some people will hit just the business side. And I kind of like to do both of them, which is why I put both of them in there. So the business side is more along the lines of, where you want to be in your business and in your life. I also sort of merge the two, asking questions about what's your personal end game. I work with a lot of small to medium sized companies. And so it's normally, one person that's, the head of the company or running the company. And so whatever that person's end goal is the real goal of the company, because not everybody wants to build a company big enough to be a corporation or have 100 employees or 1,000 employees. Some people want to keep it small, but increase their revenue. So the business side of it is figuring out that whole end of, where you're at right now, where you want to be. And then I use the marketing side pretty much to get them there. So I look at a lot of right now, digital marketing, of course, is big. But a lot of it is clarity and messaging and, trying to get your point across exactly. That's probably the biggest issue that most businesses have is, they're spending a lot of money on advertising and trying to get out there and they're not getting the results that they want. So I'll look at exactly what it is that they're doing and find out, where sort of there's a gap in their line. And figure that out and be able to consult them on how to manage that from A to Z, basically.
Awesome.
So, and almost always I will start with their messaging and their position, which I would call dominating position. So like, who are you and what makes you different than your competitors? Because a lot of people don't know who they are or what makes them different.
You know what? It's true. It's amazing. Like whenever I ask someone and a client or like a business, so what is, first of all, I don't even use the unique selling proposition, because this is too far down the line, right? But if I ask them, so what is unique about you? Like why would I buy from you and not from your competition? And
exactly.
90% have no clue.
Exactly. So it's something that you have to sort of drag out of them a little bit, but also, every company kind of needs to think about it. What is it that they're really going after and what's their little niche in that market, their little part of the piece of the pie.
Exactly. And Erica, what is the importance in your opinion, on having a niche or a very specific segment of the market? Because most of the, especially the new entrepreneurs, they believe that the bigger net they cast, the more money they're going to make.
Right. So, okay. So once you are scaling and growing, you might be able to widen that a little bit. But when you're first starting, it's just for sake of messaging, it's a lot easier if you're speaking to your ideal person that you want to speak to, or a type of person. So for example, if you are a florist, right? Clearly you are going to sell flowers to everyone. It's not that you're not going to sell flowers to anyone that comes to your store. You're going to sell flowers to everybody. But through your marketing and through your messaging, you are going to gear it towards a certain type of person. And if you say something about weddings, you know, a 60-year-old is not going to be interested. And that's just the way, I mean, maybe second weddings, but for the most part, you know, the ones that spend like that huge amount of money on weddings are, you know, 20, 30 somethings that are getting married for the first time, and they're throwing those big weddings. So it's about that. It's about knowing who you really want to speak to. And you don't have to, I know a lot of people say that maybe you just have to have that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I would say you could have different landing pages, which is just sort of like a page on your website or a page off your website, but a page that speaks to certain people, so that when you send them somewhere, you know, if you send them to your website and your website just says every single thing in the world, they're going to be lost. So you're better off sending them to a page that is specific to what they want. So the 20-something bride who's looking for all of those flowers, you know, you want to speak specifically to her and to what she is looking for. And then if you are, you know, selling flowers for a funeral, you don't want to mix that on the same page.
Absolutely not.
So you want to have a whole nother page, you know, maybe different coloring, maybe a lot of different stuff, but talking about, you know, your loss or whatever, being, you know, supporting and being with somebody on that day. So it's just a lot of it is about knowing, you know, kind of who you're speaking to. And when you're first starting out, if you have 20 of these, it's impossible to keep up with.
Absolutely.
It's just too difficult. So it's easier to just kind of dial it in, speak to one person, and really get that going, and then maybe add another one later on.
Absolutely.
And by one person, I just mean one topic or one
persona.
Niche, we call it, or yeah, persona with the niche, however you want to look at it. Some people get like really nutty about, you know, down to, you know, the bra size, but I don't I don't necessarily, you know, think you need to know all of that. And especially when you're first starting, that becomes overwhelming because you really just don't know. And I think a lot of people get stuck and frozen on, well, I don't have that person. I don't even know who that person is. Well, just make one up and go with it. And you will start realizing, you know, once you actually start taking action and you have some customers, you'll start figuring it out a little bit more closely to who your niche is. But if you can start speaking to somebody, at least you will be capturing some audience.
Actually, this was my next question. The question that I usually hear is like, I don't know who my customer is. How can I find out?
Yeah, so I think that happens a lot. And you know, there's a million different people that would tell you a million different ways to do it. I say, you know, pick one that you like. A lot of people say, you know, who you were back in the day. That doesn't always work for every business. I work with a lot of local businesses. Well, you know, a florist, you know, maybe she didn't have that big wedding, you know, whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be who you were, but just pick one that resonates with you, that you can speak to, that would be easy for you to speak to and speak about, that type of thing. And that, I would say, go with that one and then evolve as you go. You know, nothing is set in stone. You don't have to be stuck to it, married to it for the rest of your life. You can, you know, go with that for a year and build it to where it builds, and then decide, okay, this was good, you know, but I want to add something to it, or this is awesome, I'm going all in, or change it up. But stick to one to really get it going and see, you know, give it a shot. That's the other thing. A lot of people will do one and then switch and then switch and then switch. I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of, I have that in me. You know, a lot of people have that in them.
And it dilutes the image, and then there is no clarity, because as we both know, your marketing message has to be crystal clear. If
Exactly.
not, it will fall on deaf ears and they're going to tune you out. And this is, I think, the biggest advice that we can give to, like, especially women in business, on how to start. So when did you start doing that?
So I started in like 2007, I think, in digital marketing was the first thing I started. And I actually read The 4 Hour Work Week. If nobody's ever read it, you should read it. It's a really good book. But that was what hooked me. It just opened my eyes to a whole world that I had nothing, didn't know anything about. So that was my first kind of venture into it, was digital marketing. I started a digital marketing company and fell in love with the whole online everything. So I did that for a long time, and it just sort of merged into consulting through, clients asking a lot of questions.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And not everybody geeks out on it. Not everybody thinks it's fun. And I would say, 99.9% of people don't have the time either.
Yeah, I love it. Just like, So what are the challenges as a woman and as a startup and as a business owner that you were facing, that we can share with my tribe here, my reinventors, so it can kind of save them time, heartache, and effort?
Okay, so there are a lot of challenges, I would say. Right now, most recently is COVID. So a lot of businesses had to reinvent themselves. I also own a language school. It was a brick and mortar, and I had to pivot during COVID, and the whole thing is online now. So one of the challenges would just be something that you're never aware of that might happen, and you need to just, be resourceful, be resilient, and go for it. You always, those are like characteristics of a true entrepreneur. You need to be able to move with it and adjust, pivot. Don't be married to any one kind of idea. It doesn't mean that it was a bad idea. It just might mean it's not the right time, or, it's not the right one for you, whatever. But be willing to adapt to your circumstances. Definitely. I think as a woman, there are a lot of challenges. People, I'm like a very happy and smiley. I'm always positive.
I can see that.
A lot of people mistake that for not knowing what I'm talking about. A lot of people mistake that for lack of skills or knowledge, where I have just kind of decided not to worry about that personally, because I think that through what I say and through what I do, I can show that I do have the skills and knowledge. But I think a lot of women get caught up in that and start trying to act like someone or something that they're not. So I would say work with what you have, and don't let that, stop you or keep you from doing what you want to do. I think a lot of people try to sort of change who they are, and then what ends up happening is that bombs. It's hard to stick to being somebody that you're not, for starters. It's impossible, but it's also uncomfortable. You're not going to like it in the end. And, anybody who has an online business, there are a lot of ups and downs, but it is a great thing. I mean, it is an awesome thing to own, even my brick and mortar. It's a great thing to own your own business, to own your own mistakes, the failures, whatever, they're all yours. And
yeah.
So I would say don't let that stop you.
Absolutely.
I heard the other day, actually, on a podcast. I'm addicted to podcasts. I think you should stay in your learning phase. Don't spend your whole time there, but always be learning. But I heard on a podcast the other day that women entrepreneurs are your chance of getting like investors is like 1% to 2%.
Yes.
I had no idea. I did not know. I never tried to do it. And I haven't even looked into it, but I happened to be listening to a podcast, and this woman was trying for years. She did, I can't remember how many she said, but like 104 pitches, and she got no'd the whole way through, and ended up doing it herself. And I forget, her company's worth like, I think she makes like 64 million a year or something. I forget, but yeah. So, again, don't let that be a showstopper for you. You know, if you can't get funding, if that's what you need, you know, maybe you start off with a smaller idea or a part of an idea and grow it.
And scale it, exactly. And I think as women, the more successful we are, the more we suffer from imposter syndrome, right? It's just like, oh my God, what if I don't know what I'm doing? What if they're gonna find out I don't know what I'm doing? And if I smile, and by the way, when women smile, it's just like we have more of a nurturing kind of communication style, you know, and we are looked at as, like you said, that we don't have enough knowledge or we don't know what we're doing. And also culturally, there are cultures that if you smile, that means that you're not taking the discussion seriously.
Exactly.
You know, and this is like absurd. And like you said, I totally applaud what you said. Just be you. There is only one you. And I know it's like cheesy to say that, but it's actually, there is only one you. And
it's true.
The more genuine you are, the more you attract people to you.
Exactly. Two things about what you just said. One of them is imposter syndrome. I'm going to come back to that. But the other thing is a lot of people worry, especially when they're first starting out, about like how big, you know, how many people are doing it, especially over COVID. Everybody got online. Everybody wants to start a business. And a lot of people's biggest fear is, you know, well, I'm never going to make it. There's not enough room for me. There's not enough space for me. First of all, the world is enormous. I mean, enormous. A lot of the people online will fade. So consistency, sticking with it are two other traits that you definitely want to have if you want to stay in the business. But the thing is you will resonate with someone and rub somebody else wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? So somebody will see, for example, this podcast and be like, oh my God, I so want to work with Sahar. She's awesome. You know, I totally resonate with, you know, her style, the way she speaks, her experiences. And somebody else will be like, oh my God, I love Erica. This is, you know, I resonate with what she's talking about. That happens in the world everywhere.
Yes.
So don't worry about if somebody has more experience than you or more knowledge than you, or, you know, looks a different way than you look. Don't worry about it. You know, they're not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just not part of who you're going to get in your field. And that changes also, you know, it changes over time. Maybe right now, you know, your audience is a different audience than it will be in a year or in 10 years.
That's true. And there is always a piece of the pie. And I always tell clients that whatever you know, someone else knows less than what you know and will be willing to pay for your knowledge.
Exactly. And that goes with the imposter syndrome. So I think that is definitely one of the biggest things that all of the newer people go through and worry about. You know, nobody's gonna, you know, why would somebody do? But a lot of the people that are reinventing themselves, they don't realize what they bring to the table. They don't realize that they have a life full of experiences and knowledge and, you know, just experiences, basically, more than anything that they do bring to the table that they have different than somebody else. And like you just said, you're definitely, if you are passionate about something, if you're knowledge about something and somebody else wants to be, you know, you can teach them what you know. It doesn't mean, you know, when you're in kindergarten and you see a second grader, I mean, that second grader is like, wow, you know, they're like big time to a kindergartner. Now, can a second grader open a business? No, but to a kindergartner, they're like, oh, the biggest thing since sliced bread. And so you are that to somebody else. Undoubtedly, this world is too big for that not to be true. So your audience just needs to be those people that are looking at you. You know, don't undermine the amount of knowledge that you do have or the experiences, because
absolutely. And I admire the fact that how you reinvented yourself, and you didn't only survive, but you thrived by pivoting your brick and mortar into an online business. And our podcast is about reinventing yourself. And I'm very grateful to you that you talked about the challenges that you met doing that. So my next question for you is like, how do you feel after reinventing yourself? How does it feel?
Amazing. Amazing. It's funny. I wrote an article the other day, and one of the examples that I gave was about the first time that I lived by myself and my garbage disposal broke. And I was in a panic, cannot live in a house with no garbage disposal, dishes in the sink. What are you going to do? So I called my dad, and my dad said, I'll be over, on the weekend, because I was in Atlanta and the traffic is crazy and there was zero possibility. So I'm like, oh, great. What am I going to do? I call my brother, who lived, probably 2 miles from where I lived. I called my brother and I'm like, dude, my garbage disposal broke. And his response was, fix it. And he told me over the phone how to fix it. Now, in hindsight, the problem was not an enormous problem. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been able to fix it. But my brother gave me the confidence, and the push that I needed in that moment to be able to do what I needed to do. So when you're reinventing yourself, or when you're doing some massive pivot, look for the people in your life that might be that person that believes in you more than you believe in yourself.
I agree.
And use their belief until you can bring yourself to that level. And just, go by what they say, or find that support group or a consultant or a coach or somebody that can help you to get where you want to be. Because it's not a matter of you not being able to do it. It's not a matter of, it failing, but we're all going to fail a million times in life. I mean, it's going to happen over and over and over. The one who doesn't get the success is the one who stopped before they got there.
Absolutely. Erica, I wanted to ask you, what is your own definition of success? As we know, success has different definitions for different people. That could be even from the same family. But what is your own definition of success, and where do you think you are on that barometer right now?
I love that question. So let me start answering that by my very first, probably not my first, but one of my bigger reinventions. I quit corporate in 2005 and moved from Atlanta to Panama City, Panama.
Wow.
And so I think in doing that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know basically what I was going after. In my head, I was going to learn Spanish. I went for 3 months. I went back, and then I ended up moving. So in my head, I was trying to learn Spanish, but I really think I was more after, what was going to work for me. And so years later now, I can tell you that I've thought a lot about the definition of success. And for me personally, it is just being able to live life on my own terms, being able to have, the finances and the comfort and security to be able to make my own decisions. I was not a good corporate person. I did not like having to ask if I could go on vacation. Since I have quit corporate and lived on my own, I've been able to, go back to the States when my grandfather died for 3 months, and work online. My mother got sick with cancer, and I was able to go back and spend an entire summer with her, just hanging out at the pool, doing whatever, and working online. So for me, the idea of success is being able to do the things that you want to do, spend time with who you want to spend time with. It's not quitting or not working. I don't mind the work. I love it. I mean, I'm super passionate about what I do, and I love doing it. But it is definitely about being able to freedom. Freedom for me is the definition of success. Freedom of finances, freedom of decisions, being able to go where I want to go and do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I do not live a lavish lifestyle. I am not like a, Chanel kind of person. I drive a car that's 100 years old. I'm not a fancy person, but I do like to do what I like to do.
Absolutely.
I would say,
yes,
I am as close to my definition of success as I could possibly be at this moment in my life. I have a ways to go, like everybody, but
that's awesome to hear, though. I mean, that's really so encouraging, to hear that. So I love when women succeed. Just like for me, I feel it's part of my mission, and also not only to know about it, but to share it. And that's why I try to reach out as to many women that I don't even know personally, to be guests on my podcast, because it could be a way like for more expansion, That being said, before we wrap up our great interview here, and I'm loving every single minute of it, I always like to leave our reinventors with some pearls of wisdom. What would you share as wisdom to the reinventors?
I would say, one, just take some action. Go for it. Whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing and wanting to do, just do it. Start really investing in yourself. If you don't know what it is or how to get there, invest in yourself. But otherwise, just start moving forward, because until you make that first move, until you take that step, until you start taking action, you're not going to know what you don't know. You're not going to have the questions that you need to have. And don't wait. I would just say, just do it now.
Absolutely. Execute. Erica, I am so delighted that you were a guest on my podcast today. And Reinventors, it's Erica Leary, Leary. Her website is www.ericaleary.com. Again, Leary is Leary. How else they can get hold of you, Erica?
And Erica is with a C, so some people spell it with a lot of different spellings, but it's ERICA. So the website is Erica Leary, or you can find me in Facebook, Instagram at The Real Erica Leary, and my personal Facebook is Erica Leary, ATL for Atlanta.
Thank you so much, Erica, for being here today. I am so excited to have had you today here. And I'm sure that whatever you shared with our reinventors will really help them, either if they are starting or scaling their business. And like I said, I'm delighted that you have been here. Thank you so much for being on our podcast today.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite, and Happy New Year, everybody, since this will be airing in the beginning of the new year.
Exactly. So Reinventors, as you know, this is the first week of 2021, and I'm wishing you, every single one of you, to have a better year than 2020. As I always like to end my podcast, I believe that each one of us have a genius inside, that each one of us have a light inside that can only not light our path, but can light the path of other people that come behind us. And we should just pay it forward. This is your host, Sahar Andrade. It has been delightful to have Erica with us today and to have you guys listening to the podcast today. As you know, you can always reach me on my website, www.reinventyourselftogreatness.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Sahar, the Reinvent Coach, and everywhere else, Reinvent Yourself with Sahar. Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you, Reinventors. Very, very, very happy new year. And I love you all, and we'll see you soon. And from now, I am bouncing out.